ang Pangulo para sa pagbabago. Awa na ang ayan ko sa magnanakaw na tao. Madilim na kahapon, ikaw ang mag-aamon. Sa piling mo, di ko mawawala ang korupsyon. Tayo na, Pilipinas, tayo na magbago. Hawat kamay tayo para sa pagkasentro. Hawat ako, tayong lahat kay Rodrigo Duterte para sa tunay na pagbabago. Masdan mo ang paligid, alam ang mga krimen, rape, droga at mga nakawan, dapat nga mapitigan. Tayo na, Pilipinas, tayo na magbago. Hawat kamay tayo para sa pagkasentro. Ikaw at ako, tayong lahat kay Rodrigo Duterte para sa tunay na pagbabago.
Why am I here? I am here because I love my country and I love the people of the Philippines.
Ikaw at ako, tayong lahat kay Rodrigo Duterte para sa tunay na pagbabago.
Ito ang pamilyang hinahanap, kung saan may boses ang lahat. Mainit na issue pinag-uusapan, halika't tayo'y magkwentuhan. Reaksyon, ikaw tunay. Komento mo ay ibigay. Sama-sama tayo'y magkaisa sa likod ng bagong umaga. Reaksyon,
Reaksyon TV.
Magandang gabi po sa inyo lahat mga Reaksyon TV, at ngayon po ay araw na naman po ng Monday. Nako, na-miss ko kayong lahat mga Reaksyon TV ha. At ngayong gabi po ay meron tayong guest at nagbabalik for the second time ang ating pong pinakamamahal from UK. Yan, at mamaya malalaman ho natin yan kung sino po yan. But nasaan ang aking co-host Philip Bren? Pasok Philip Bren! Ayan na mga Reaksyon TV, maraming salamat sa inyo lahat, at sa mga nasa Facebook live po natin, live na live po tayo sa YouTube at sa Facebook. Sa
Nag-share lang ako sa dali. Nag-share lang ako.
Kaibigan ho natin dyan, nasa ng camera mo Philip Bren? At sa lahat ayan, sa mga nandito. Ayun, yun naman pala, mag-share pala eh. O sige, huwag ka muna magpatay ng camera. Okay, so sa lahat ng mga kaibigan natin, kila Psychic, maraming salamat from Japan. At sa USA kay Sherman ACDB, shoutout sa iyo. Kay Hattori Hanso ng Arizona, thank you very much. And all the way from Washington, USA, Ma'am Per Russell, shoutout to you. At syempre kay Grade 05, kay Ma'am Eve Mariano, kay Ma'am Grace, at belated happy birthday kay Steven Salapare. Happy birthday kahapon ha. Ayan, at kay Ma'am Ruth ng Singapore, maraming salamat. Kay Salamin ng Buhay, kay Sia's Playground, kay Ate Jocelyn Mauricio, at kay Mr. Muhammad from UAE. So Philip Bren, sa lahat ng mga hindi pa natin nakabate, sige, ikaw muna bumate.
Sige, good evening po sa lahat, and thank you so much, nandito kayo, no? Magpa-shoutout lang tayo, no, sa lahat ng mga Twitter fighters natin, no? And good evening, Hattori Hanso, mega shoutout, ikaw ang una. Psychic, Belma V, Ruti, Marlon, Salamin ng Buhay, mega shoutout. Ate Vons Harley, mega shoutout. Ma'am Ruti, Dani Lakay, mega shoutout sa inyo. Salamat po, at nauna kayo lahat dito. Salamat po. At ang mga Twitter fighters natin, mega shoutout kay Miss Vodka, Miss Valerie, Miss Bing Bling, mega shoutout to you. Briggs, Jason, no? Si Boy Kape, mega shoutout. Rubes Great, mega shoutout sa inyo. Miss Melody from Japan, mega shoutout sa you watching now. Maldits Namyao, mega shoutout to you. Miss Maway Peps TV, mega shoutout. And also mega shoutout to Lorenzo, yung DDS fighter natin from FB and YouTube rin, no? And mega shoutout rin kay Judy Borromeo, mega shoutout sa inyo, no? At sa lahat po nanonood, mega shoutout to you, mega shoutout Mr. Malcolm, Jolod Serafin, mega shoutout, salamat po. Mega shoutout po sa lahat. Okay, tapos
thank you very much. Thank you Philip Bren, at Ate Bons Harley from Finland. Thank you very much for tune in on my live streaming. At kayo po ay nakikinig, nanonood sa via Facebook and syempre sa YouTube. Kaya yung mga hindi pa ho nakapag-share, shoutout po sa inyo. Sana naman ma-share nyo na, like and share, and don't forget to hit the like button and syempre subscribe button. Then, Philip Bren, sino ba yung ating guest tonight?
nasa baba na, sir, si Malcolm Conlan. Welcome, Mr. Malcolm Conlan, yes, from United Kingdom. Nasa backstage na natin. Don't worry, Philip. Yes. Okay, so natin, kasi itong ating guest tonight, ito naman po ay talagang hindi naman po Pilipino. Okay? He's not a Filipino citizen, but he have, meron siyang pusong Pinoy, na kung saan talagang yung malasakit niya, yung pagmamahal niya, talagang naandito sa kanya at hindi nawawala. At saka ang maganda rito is suportado niya ang ating administration sa mga magandang nagagawa ng ating Pangulong Duterte. At kaya po ay tawagin na ba natin, Philip Bren? Yes, mega shoutout pala kay Babe Erling, watching now live. Thank you so much, Babe Erling. Hey.
Ayan, Philip Bren, tawagin na. Sige,
Sige po,
bago natin
sir.
tawagin, shoutout ko muna si Monica Lascano at si Don Kenkoy and of course Bernalyn Belminida, Marlon Cantos. Okay, so once again, mga Reaksyon TV, mga kasama ho natin live at mapag-uusapan natin yung mga issue ng bayan. Siya po ay mahilig gumawa ng mga reaksyon, opinion na kung saan makakapulot tayo ng mga aral. Ito ho, tanggapin natin live all the way from UK, Mr. Malcolm Conlan.
Kamusta ka? How you doing, guys? Maraming salamat for inviting me. Magandang gabi to you guys there in the Middle East, and magandang hapon, magandang tanghali, depending on where you are around the world. Maraming salamat po.
Yes,
Thank you very much,
salamat.
Mr. Malcolm. Once again, thank you very much for accepting my invitation for our live streaming here at Reaksyon TV for the second time, right?
No worries. Why am I nervous? I was nervous last time because some of the questions you asked me, and I've just been watching it back live, and I'm nervous. But go ahead. You know, I'm all yours for the next hour or so. Just go ahead and just ask me anything you want.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Don't worry, Mr. Malcolm. Now we have a lot of questions, but about the situation and your opinion, from your opinion and the reaction to the Philippines and our country, because you are living in UK now, right?
Oh, tama.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, before I proceed, I want to shout out my love and one and only, my wife, di ba? Love ko yan. I love you. Shout out tayo, Miss Colette. Okay, so Philippine, introduce mo si Mr. Malcolm.
Our guest for tonight will be no other than pinaka-solid na DDS. None other than Malcolm Conlan, defender ng Pangulo. Kahit anong iba to kay Pangulo, our guest Malcolm Conlan is always there to defend the president. He's always making a comment against the critics. And I thank Malcolm so much for being a solid DDS supporter and also a supporter of our president. We should be proud of him. We should look up to him and look at him now. No, he's very famous now, even in UK. He has a program in UK also, and he's very, he's even the books against the president. He's there. His nose is anywhere if any critics comes to our president. So I'd like to thank Mr. Malcolm personally for defending our president and defending our country. Thank you so much.
Yes.
And back to you, sir.
Random question only. Random question, but that's not a big question. No problem. Okay, Philippine. So, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Sir Malcolm, I'd like to ask you a question. What is your reaction regarding the Facebook in our country? Do you agree to have it removed, or do you? What's your comment on this matter?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that. It's something that I won't publicly comment on my own Facebook, because as you know, I have a verified Facebook account and I have to be very careful to be critical of Facebook. I'm not going to be critical, but I'll just say this, Facebook in the Philippines is free. If you have a mobile phone and you buy your load, you get a certain amount of free Facebook. I remember back to the typhoons in the Philippines and many of the disasters back home. Facebook is a lifeline. When there are people who needed to be rescued when they were stuck on top of rooftops, I remember people using Facebook when people couldn't afford to feed their family, when people were stranded. Facebook has been there. Many times I've also defended the Philippines through Facebook. I remember back to the Megan Young Miss World, there was a lady called Davina who was bashing the Philippines and bashing Megan Young. And I was able to write a letter of defense. So Facebook is entrenched and enshrined in the lives of the Filipino people. And I believe the Philippines would be at a great loss without it.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Uh,
Okay, so you have
you
a
have any
follow-up question?
Yes, regarding the the verifiers, we called it the verifiers. Do you agree to have it changed, or what is your recommendation regarding this verifiers? Because usually most of the people are complaining to the verifiers, fact checkers, as we call it. Do you have any concern or recommendations for them if you were given a chance to have a solution regarding on this?
I think you have to realize that the CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, is under tremendous government pressure. You know, the fact is now, we talk about freedom of speech, but people have to understand that Facebook is a private company with shareholders. Nobody's being forced to be on Facebook. It's people's choice. And people have to accept that governments are clamping down hard on Facebook right now. It's the foreign governments who are telling people not to comment on this, be it Black Lives Matter, be it the Holocaust, be whatever it is, be it COVID. The problem is Facebook is facing heavy regulation. So you can understand why there isn't absolute freedom of speech. Because again, it's a private company, you know, it's for advertisers. You know, we have Facebook and it's a fantastic tool. But I don't believe that freedom of speech is absolute. I don't want people going on Facebook and making up stories. You can beat COVID if you take 3 gingers and 2 portions of salt. You know, the fact is that people have to be responsible in their freedom of speech from whatever political color they're from. Regarding verify and the Rappler verification, etc., I would say this, you know, there's fake news from all sides, not only from the opposition, but also from people who are pretending to be DDS. So it's very, very difficult. And, you know, there is a challenge. But all I would say is I want it to be fair. If Rappler can have a verification, Maria Ressa can have a verification, why can't the Presidential Communications Operations Office also have somebody to verify the news? Why can't a panel from Pro Duterte, why can't they also be part of that process? I have nothing against verification because nobody can accept fake news, but it has to be balanced, which is exactly what the Presidential Communications Operations Office, I believe, is saying at the moment.
Okay. Mr. Reaksyon, you have any questions?
Good answer. Thank you very much, Mr. Malcolm. Then, Mr. Malcolm, before I will ask you about the political matter, here is a personal question. I know many people, many Filipinos know you. So, my question is, what makes you love the Philippines and why you will believe in our President Duterte?
People have to understand that I've been a supporter of the Philippines long before I even had heard of President Duterte. You know, I've never been to Davao. My wife's from Pangasinan. I'm never really kept up to date with what was happening regarding President Duterte or even Rodrigo Duterte. So I knew nothing of him. The fact is, I've defended the Philippines now for close to 20 years. And as I've said before, previously, that when Rodrigo Duterte was going for election, i.e. when there was campaigning, I was listening to the fake news. You know, I was a victim of fake news. People were saying that he's bad and that he's this and there's the Davao death squad and everything else. And I was believing in that. But it was only when my wife started listening to YouTube videos about all the good things that Rodrigo Duterte was doing, or Mayor Rodrigo Duterte was doing, I realized that I'd been listening to fake news, and I was man enough to apologize. In fact, I wrote Mayor Duterte a letter to apologize and to say, look, sir, I got you wrong. I fully support you now. So the fact is, I don't listen to fake news. I check it out on Google. I listen myself, and I do what I believe is right. And I believe President Duterte is right for the Philippines. I believe there have been so many improvements in the country. The people feel safer. crime is down, corruption is down, drugs have been reduced. Having met the president personally as well, I can say from the bottom of my heart that he is a very nice, caring, friendly man who I have the greatest support for.
Thank you very much okay, Philippine, go ahead.
I'll ask you regarding, you remember the EU issue, right? And you already I would like to ask you, what was your action and what is your reaction, and what did you did during the EU? What she did, Maria Reza talked to EU regarding all these things about Duterte. So what happened when you received this news regarding the EU? What was your action?
You may have watched the YouTube video yourself. I'm not sure if you have, but I've had it on my channel. And in fact, I wrote an open letter to MEP, or the member of the European Parliament, Hannah Newman. Now, Hannah Newman, I don't know if she's ever been to the Philippines, but I can tell you this: she lives 7,000 miles from the Philippines. It doesn't look like she's Filipino. I've had a look at her. She doesn't appear Filipino to me. I don't know if she's got any Filipino family, but I would say this: what connection? And this is what I said to her in the letter. You know, the fact is, you are taking food from the mouths of the Filipino people. Already there's a pandemic in the Philippines, and some Filipinos are starving as a result of that pandemic. And many businesses in the Philippines rely on exporting their goods to Europe. And the issue, of course, was this trade relief, if you like, this trade tariff. Apparently there's a trade tariff that if you're a developing country, you don't have to pay any tariffs to export from the Philippines to Europe. Now, she stood up in a speech that lasted a minute and a half, and she said, from Monday, this is because of Duterte and Duterte's Philippines, I'm going to stop this trade tariff. And basically what happened was the European Parliament voted to suspend this trade relief, if you like. And the fact is that affects Filipino businesses, and already it's hard for Filipino businesses to survive. So in effect, she's robbing the Filipino people of any little business or income that they have. And I'm very angry about it. And I wrote her a letter, and I made a video, which has been my most watched video. I believe it's been viewed thousands of hours and shared thousands of times. And I think that's the point, isn't it? You know, so many people say to me, oh, you're lucky because you got to meet the president, or you're lucky because people know you. But people have to understand that I wake up night and day. When I heard about this, I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I spent 3 hours writing that letter, because I will not stand back and allow people to say bad things about the president, bad things about the Philippines, and rob the Filipino people. And something had to be done. And that's exactly why I took the action that I did.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was very... I have another...
Yes, that's good. Because Maria Reza is not a part of the government. Why she go to EU? And Dr. Hannah Newman, why she hear the complaint from Maria Reza? Because she's not a part of the government, right?
Let me just talk a little bit about Maria Ressa. Now, Maria Ressa is a private individual, and she just happens to be the CEO of Rappler and a so-called journalist. And Rappler is a so-called media site, media blog, whatever you want to call it. Now, the fact is, there was an issue many years ago with Reldo King, who I believe is a private businessman in the Philippines. He's not part of the government. He's not part of any elected office. He's a private businessman. And as far as I know, Maria Ressa and Rappler wrote an article against him, which was defamation of character against him and his family. I don't know the exact circumstances, and I don't really want to recall that. But all I will say is that he decided to go ahead and take out a private prosecution. Now, even I think Secretary Harry Roque said this himself, and several lawyers said, you know, that law shouldn't exist. It's not a good law because it means private individuals can take out criminal cases. But the fact is, that is Philippine law. You can't change that. That's the law as it stands. And unfortunately, Maria Ressa fell victim to that law, and she was found guilty. So she can't go ahead and say it was fake charges or it was trumped up charges or President Duterte put me in prison or whatever else she's trying to claim, because she broke the law. That's a simple fact. And if you break the law, you must suffer the consequences. And in Maria Ressa's case, she's been found guilty of a crime. And it's as simple as that. So she can't go along to the EU and claim it's all fake news, and she can't go along to the EU and say the charges were trumped up when it's plain to see. She needs to start telling exactly what happened. She needs to say that her organization wrote a libelous story about this businessman, and she should hold her hands up and say, I did wrong. These are the consequences. Apparently, she had plenty of opportunities over the last few years to be able to correct that before it even came to this stage.
There's a
Yes.
thank you. Thank you. That is correct. You are
Okay, that's a very good answer. This dapat malaman natin talaga yung mga ganun. Sige, Philip Bren.
yes. There's a question from one of our viewers. No, her name is Janet Panaligan. She's a fan of yours. No, he's supporting you, and she's asking,
Yeah,
when can you
from UK also.
when can you
Okay.
say that we have achieved the promise of the president and this dream of the Filipino people, tunay na pagbabago? Where does it begin?
I think the thing is, before President Duterte got elected, or Mayor Duterte, he said that he would rid the Philippines of drugs in 6 months. And that was his election promise. And nobody can deny that was one of his election promises. However, before he came to office, he didn't realize the extent of the problem. He didn't realize there were 4 million Filipinos addicted to shabu. The question is, why didn't previous administrations deal with this matter? Why has he been left to deal with the mess over China that should have been dealt with by previous administrations? In fact, there's an argument to say that previous administrations were the ones who engineered that oil exploration in the Spratly Islands, and he's inherited the problem. The fact is, President Duterte has managed to reduce crime by 50% in the Philippines. He's not God. He can't do everything. But the fact is, I can tell you now, he works night and day. He works 24/7, even during the pandemic. Instead of spending time with his family home in Davao, he was sitting in the palace as the chief of command, dealing with the situation. He's done an incredible amount for a man who's approaching 75 years old. For the strength that he has, the way that he's worked is quite simply incredible. You only have to look at the popularity rating of 92%. Can you tell me any other leader around the world who has such a popularity rating? And hi, Janet.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true, Mr. Malcolm. Very well said. That was a very good answer. So, Miss Ed Pamintu, Miss what you call this? Her name? Forget it.
Okay, so
Yes.
I have a question. Okay, so Mr. Malcolm, so a lot of Filipino people, they don't know, they knows about you, and you are President Duterte is the one of supporters from UK. Now, I ask you, how is the governance of Duterte administration?
I think he's doing a very good job. Again, you only have to look at the recent Pulse Asia survey that gave him a satisfaction rating of 92%. You only have to look around the world about how other world leaders are handling the COVID pandemic to see that the president is trying his very best. But the fact is, you cannot deny there is still corruption. There's corruption in PhilHealth. There was some corruption in the distribution of the SAP fund. Whatever the president does, he's only as good as the team around him. And of course, he's leading from the front, he's leading from the top. But the fact is, you cannot ever, I don't think you'll do this in a generation. I don't think you can stop corruption at other levels. You know, grassroots corruption, I think, will be a problem in the Philippines for a very long time to come. And President Duterte, being almost a superhero in terms of what he's achieved, I still don't believe he can sort out every problem. I think he can lay the foundations like the Build program, but I don't believe every airport, every underground, every bridge will be built. But as I heard when I attended the Build program personally a couple of years ago in the Conrad Hotel in Manila, they made it very clear that everything that President Duterte has promised, he will at least start or at least progress. He can't achieve everything, but he will work tirelessly night and day until the end of his term for the benefit of the Filipino people.
Yes, thank you very much. And Mr. Malcolm, the follow-up question is, personally, how to rate President Duterte from 1 to 10? 1 to 10 is 10 is higher, 1 is lower.
How do I rate him? Sorry about that. 1 second. Yeah. How do I rate him from 1 to 10? 11.
Oh my goodness. Thank you very much. Shout out kay Don Kenkoy. Thank you very much for then
a question.
Mr. Malcolm, I have question. Do you know politics in the Philippines have us for a presidential have 6 years, right? Term. Okay? President Duterte is I ask you, President Duterte is nearing to close his presidency on 2022. Your belief in President Duterte governance from 2016 on this time remain strong or getting stronger, or this made what I mean is have President Duterte delivers to the people his promise? This is my question.
I believe that he has. I believe the massive issue that he faces as a world leader, as every single world leader faces around the world, is of course this dreaded COVID-19 pandemic, which every way he looks at it, his Build program relied on funds, relied on money being borrowed, relied on money that had already been saved up, relied on taxes. Now, whichever way you look at it, millions of Filipinos are now unemployed, so they're not paying the taxes. Many countries around the world are almost bankrupt. So sad to say, what he wanted to achieve due to COVID-19, much of what he wanted to achieve has now been put on the back foot. That's not his fault whatsoever. That's just the way of the world as it is. And I believe he's still doing his very, very best. But now I don't believe that he would be able to achieve everything that he wanted to achieve within his term through no fault of his own. Any other leader of the Philippines after 4 years during COVID-19 would have been in exactly the same position as him.
Okay, thank you very much. Philip Bren?
Yes, I have a question. There are some critics right now. They are criticizing the president about his rating, 91%. And, another senator made a critic that 91% cannot feed the Filipino people. There's another one, fake. They are saying post-Asia is not reliable. So can I ask you, what is your comment on this issue?
I'm glad I've really been keeping up to date with the news recently, and I believe you're talking about Senator Pangulong, and that was his comment about 91% can't feed the Filipino people. Yeah. I would say this, the Philippines, again, is going through a very, very difficult time. Nobody can deny there are people who are going hungry. Nobody can deny that. You only have to look at places like Tondo and the inner cities. There are people who maybe are missing out on the SAT program, and our hearts go out to them. But the fact is, President Duterte is doing his best. You know, he's gone to the world and said, we need to borrow some money. And then he borrowed some more money. I think he's doing his best. But the fact is, this Pulse Asia survey, or some people, the yellows would call it False Asia. I would say this: Vice President Leni Robredo got a satisfaction rating of 57% or whatever it may be, which I can believe. However, my question to the yellows is this: if Vice President Leni Robredo got a satisfaction rating of 91%, and President Duterte, something would never happen, would get a satisfaction rating of 57%, would the yellows be saying that False Asia or Pulse Asia was false? The only reason why they're saying it's false is because they don't agree with the narrative. They don't agree with the result. Now, this wasn't a massive survey, but it was still a survey of 1,500 Filipinos randomly selected. And 91% of those said they believe in what President Duterte is doing. You cannot change the facts. The facts are there. Whatever you say about it, regardless of what Kiko Pangulong says about whether these people are hungry or whatever, the fact is they still believe in the president. They still believe in his leadership, and nothing can change that fact.
Yes,
Well said.
thank you very much. But Mr. Malcolm, some critics of the President Duterte, they said President Duterte is why he gained 91%, and Mr. Duterte is he worked to Davao, then go to sleep. Why he gained 91%?
Again, President Duterte is not a young man anymore, with the greatest respect. He is a man approaching his 75th, or I believe his 75th birthday. You show me any other person of 75 years old who can be the chief executive of a government, who can stay up night and day to work hard for his country. People can see that. People can see him leading from the front. People can see him attending every single meeting. Why shouldn't he spend time with his family? He's made it very, very clear that he doesn't particularly like the palace. He doesn't particularly like living in the palace, but that is the seat of the government. The fact is, President Duterte has a young daughter, has a partner, has a family. Why can't he get a day off? Why can't he get annual leave? Every other employee, all of these critics, all of these yellows who have jobs in the Philippines, don't tell me they have to work 365 days a year, because they don't. They get maybe 13, 14 days holiday. Why should the president of the Republic of the Philippines not get the holiday like them? Why shouldn't he have a day off? Why shouldn't he have a weekend off? He's entitled to it. It makes me very, very angry that people are quick to criticize the president, but what would they do in his shoes? What would they do in his position?
Thank
That
you
is
very much,
true.
Mr. Malcolm. Philippine, okay?
Yes,
So,
I have.
maybe question from viewers, and Mr. Malcolm, some of viewers have question to you, but on live. Okay, so please wait. But Philip Bren, you see the other question from
Yes,
typing
yes, I
section?
see it. Yes, yes. I have one question. This is from one of our viewers, Miss Plutarch Molonlave. Yes, he's from the U.S. and he's asking you, Malcolm, if you are allowed to serve the Philippine government, which branch of the government do you want to work in, and why? What would be your first order of duty?
That's very simple. I'd like to work in international relations. I'd like to work in an office whereby I could tell the world what's really happening, where I could educate the likes of the BBC, the yellow liberal media around the world have sent all of these agencies as to what's really happening in the Philippines, because I've said this before and I've said this again, and this makes me absolutely mad. While the likes of Ressa, while the likes of Robredo are going around the world saying this is happening, there's all these unexplained killings, all these shootings, that is not encouraging tourism. That is not encouraging for people to visit the Philippines. While all of these people say Duterte's a tyrant, Duterte's a madman, a killer, how do these Filipinos, actual Filipinos by blood, believe the Philippines can progress if people are painting a bad picture about their country? I've said this time and time again. I may not be Filipino by nationality, but I do believe I'm Filipino by heart. And if there was some way that I could become Filipino, not that I want to give up my British nationality, because I wouldn't want to, but if there's some way I can stand up from the rooftops and shout out, now I'm Filipino, now listen to me, this is what's really happening in the country, and combat the fake news that's so rampant and that's giving the Philippines a bad name. And this very same fake news is the reason why the EU were trying to drop this trade subsidy, because they're listening to the fake news. And this is the biggest problem in the Philippines right now, fake news.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Malcolm.
Well said.
Then, Philippine, you have another question?
Yes, I'd like to ask you a question regarding the
Okay. So
situation.
before I proceed to another question, please read all the comment section. Then Mr. Malcolm, he take some water.
I'm sorry about having the water. Can I just say about the water? So last time I know you had me on your show, I felt a little bit of pressure to the point that I was almost fainted, and I actually had to leave and go and get something to eat. So I'm determined that I'm not going to faint again, which is why please forgive me for drinking water on camera, but it's probably better than me passing out on camera, Diba?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I understand. I'm sorry last time, Mr. Malcolm, because you
I felt the pressure.
yeah, very pleasure.
Okay. I have one reaction from the crowd here. It's Mr. Bash. It's an act from Facebook. He's one of the DDS supporters. He's asking because he's temporarily banned from FB for 3 weeks now. So would you say that this is more of a bias from FB's part, or what is your comment regarding on this?
If I'm honest, I still support Facebook. As I've said, I'm verified on Facebook, and I'm very grateful to Facebook for that. But if I'm honest, people have to understand that they need to be very, very careful. There is something on Facebook called the community guidelines. And if you break any of those guidelines, you will automatically be banned by one of the Facebook bots. It's not somebody in Facebook physically banning you. What it is one of the bots picking up that you are doing something wrong. For example, if you go against anybody, if you name anybody on your Facebook, if you put anyone's picture on your Facebook, a personal person, and say, this person said this about me, it's an automatic ban. Of course, there's freedom of speech, but they call that hate speech or targeting. So as long as you know, as long as you only have one Facebook account, as long as you put in brackets, this is my personal opinion, as long as you follow the rules of Facebook, you shouldn't be banned. But don't expect not to be banned if accidentally you don't follow the rules. You know, Facebook has had to toughen up because of political pressure from governments. And as a result of that, you will be banned. And then, of course, you have the fact checkers as well. And I would say this, you know, people before have shared a photo to say Her Majesty the Queen says that Duterte is the best thing ever. People have to understand Her Majesty the Queen would not make any comment on politics. I've always said this. If you think something's not true, it probably isn't. And what I would suggest is before you share any news on Facebook whatsoever, I would say to you, copy and paste what you're going to share, stick it in Google, and if it only appears on somebody's blog, it's fake news. Don't share fake news and you won't be banned.
Okay. So I'd like to read. Thank you so much for answering.
Yes,
And I'd like to.
regarding the Facebook, I remember that one guy, blogger, okay? What is your opinion about the video from Nightfall? Because he said if uh, President Duterte ban Facebook in the Philippines, they make some video for the Facebook because have issue about the fake news and fake account. What what is your opinion about Nightfall?
My opinion about this, and I haven't actually seen that, so I can't refer to that directly. But all I can say is what I said earlier. Facebook is a lifeline for many Filipinos in the Philippines. And I have no doubt that President Duterte is very much aware of that. But again, you know, it's sometimes necessary for President Duterte to use rhetoric, for President Duterte to use political bargaining to achieve his aims. And he makes a very good point. At the moment, it is biased because you have fact checkers, Dilawan fact checkers, you have Rappler doing fact checking, and you don't have anyone from the Office of the Presidential Communication Operations Office. If it was fairly balanced, then yeah, I don't think there would be an issue. Hand on heart, I really don't believe, because President Duterte supports free speech, I don't believe Facebook would be banned, but I think that Facebook need to sit down and make it very, very clear why they have Rappler, why they have Ressa as fact checkers and verifiers. And are they going to invite someone from the pro-Duterte side to be a fact checker?
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Malcolm, we have one viewers. She want to question to you on live. So, Philip Bren, pakilala mo ang ating guest na magtatanong.
Our guest is Miss Bonds. She's from Europe, and she would like to ask you a. Miss Bonds, proceed.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me? I have a very bad signal. I don't know why. It should not happen, but I don't know why. Can you hear me, Sir Reaksyon?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, good evening.
Okay. Good evening. First of all, good evening to all the viewers. And Mr. Malcolm, I just want you to know that I really appreciate and thankful for the support that you have given to our president. And of course, for giving so much effort for telling internationally what Philippines is and what Philippines is for. I really appreciate that because it's not, as you can see, of course, in Filipinos, we know how to speak English. We know how to understand English. But for those who are in the Philippines, it's a little bit difficult to understand the international communication system on how we interact to each other. But then, like what happened to that Hannah's speech, first she opened in her speech that last summer I talked with Maria Ressa. But then, for us who live in abroad, like you, who is from British, then we know that what summer she meant it's June to August. But in our country, in Philippines, it's meant March to May. But you know, for us as Filipino and for me, in the intercultural perspective, that is a little bit like bias because she did not explain what summer means and when is that summer. And for that, it's already making a certain point that she already make a statement which is not for everyone in the Filipino can understand what she really meant. And of course, the second point is she did not even speak who is Maria Ressa. And that is a little bit so dismayed for us. And I was really angry listening. Hannah can speak whatever she wants to speak, and she can complain whatever she wants to complain. But she was lack of communication on how she can relate to the people. She can maybe relate to the international community, but she forgot to relay her matter or her subject to the Filipino, which or where the subject is for. And that is really making me like upset to her, the way she delivered that speech. And my question to you is this, though I introduced so long, but my question to you is this: since you can speak, of course, English, and the communication system you can deliver is different, the way in Philippines, for us as Filipino, we can say and we can do and stand for our president, and also how we handle politics in our country, and we can communicate to our people that how, and we can explain that what happened and how it should under how they can understand things. But in the international community, it is difficult, or it is not that easy for us Filipino, especially those vlogger who are in the Philippines, who have no experience in foreign country. The approach is different, and that is makes the gap there. Because if I talk to you like, oh Malcolm, why you believe in Philippines, oh why you are like that, then that is like you know, this aggressive kind. But in international community, that is really, they understand our politics so dirty and so mean, and they understand our president, especially they don't know anymore our president as a good man who is serving his people, his country, and they only know the how this Hannah, for example, speech, Maria Resa's explanation, and this black propaganda against our government. So as a foreigner like you, how do you communicate, and how do you at least not defend but explain to the international community that the Philippine politics is not as clean as same as here what happened in Europe or other country, and it's also not that good, it is also good as others. It's just that the black propaganda in Philippines is much more noisier than what is truth. So for you, how can you like help at least, because you have that better international communication system for that, and that is a very big help for us.
Can I answer that? It might be an extended answer, but let me answer that for you. There is an echo. Can we get rid of the echo? Sorry, I can't hear myself speak. I think that's a technical matter. Okay, that's brilliant. I'm still getting the echo. Okay, I'm not now. All right, sorry about that. Let me try and answer that. There's several factors to consider. Firstly, I have already suggested previously, when I've been with the PCOO, I've actually suggested previously that I would be very happy to volunteer my time. I'd be very happy to continue to write letters, to make representations to the government. I'll be very happy to do that. You know, I'm not expecting any money for it or anything like that. I never want to make a penny out of politics. I've never have made a penny out of politics. I just want to make that very clear. But it makes me very angry each time people bash the Philippines. I'd say a few things. Firstly, I have this voice. I have about 70,000 followers on Facebook. I have people on YouTube, on Twitter and Instagram. And how I've got that voice is by standing up for the Philippines for 20 years. It's not all about now. It's not all about the president, but I've got this voice over a long time. And also, I never went to university. I don't have a degree. But the thing is, I've got to be honest, and I'll say this on camera, I was bullied at school. And I hate to see other people being bullied. So as a result of that, when someone bashes the Philippines, when someone bashes the president, when people say bad things about the country, that makes me angry. But people themselves, Filipinos themselves, have to know that if people get angry to the point of swearing and being aggressive, they're just going to get banned. It's very simple. Write a letter. If you're in Europe, you can write to the MEP. If you're in the UK, you can write to your MP, you can write to your newspapers, which many Filipinos are already doing. I never asked to be a spokesperson, But if somebody finds something that they find offensive, they will write to me and I will answer that. And my point of this, if you are a foreigner and you are married to a Filipino, I believe it's your absolute sworn duty to defend the flag of the Philippines to the bitter end. And I promise you this, if anyone says anything bad about the Philippines, the Filipino people, the president, I will fight. I will fight on behalf of people who maybe don't have that voice. We have to remember that in the Middle East, there are many people who can't speak up. There are many people being mistreated. There are so many bad things going on. And you need someone to speak up. And I hate to see discrimination. I hate to see people who are having a hard time. And I will continue to speak up. I'm not the greatest letter writer. I'm not the most eloquent. As I said, I don't have the long words, but all I will do, and all I've been doing now for over 20 years, is write simple letters from the heart. The only reason, again, why I said I'd like to say that I'm a Filipino is that when I write to the Times on behalf of President Duterte, the Times write back to me and say, "Who are you? You don't work for the president. You don't work for the Philippine government. You're not Filipino. What is that interest? What has it got to do with you?" So if I could some way be some kind of volunteer advocate, if you like, so I'd have some legitimacy, that would mean that when I wrote a letter, I would get a better response, because right now, most of the time, I hate to say, sadly, I'm ignored. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't write the letters, because there are people, I don't know, you've got an OFW in the Middle East, a domestic worker. And when she sees me write this letter defending the Filipino people, she feels better about herself. And that's one of the primary reasons why I do it, is to create noise on social media so that big agencies, news agencies will then handle it. I can't myself. But by creating that noise on social media, I hope that things can be done and things can be changed. You know, I've even written to the Prime Minister of Singapore and I've got a reply from his office. So, you know, I will write letters and I'll continue to write letters. And I believe that's the responsibility of every single foreigner. You cannot marry somebody from another country and defend their culture. Otherwise, marry somebody from your own culture. I hate to say that. I know there are a lot of foreigners who do love the Philippines, who do defend the Philippines, but we all have a paper and a pen. We can all write a letter. We can all go on Facebook. Let's have a combined effort when there is discrimination against the Philippines, when the president's being bashed, regardless of whether your English is very good or you want to write in Filipino. Let's all write. Let's get something done and let's make a real difference, because the PCOO can't do it alone. They need the support of the Filipino people. And don't think you're incapable to do it, because your letter is just as powerful as mine. In fact, I have a disadvantage because I can't understand all the issues. We should all be doing all we can to defend the flag and the people of the Philippines.
Thank you, Mr. Malcolm, for that answer. I can see through your heart, even though you are just in front of me in the camera, but I can see straight through your heart how much you have loved our country, and defending not just about the president, but of course the people as well. And that is a very dedicated work, a dedicated love, that it's a genuine love that I cannot ask or question. I really appreciate and I thank you for that. You know, you have said is a very good point, and that is really because now in the Philippines we are in this kind of era that we have to explain to our people, to the Filipino people, what happened then, what happened before in our past, and what was twisted in our history, and what we have to make things right. And that is not even easy already. That is even already difficult for us. And then if we are still going to the international community, that is even more harder, especially now that there is this social media that killing us. And if you have seen the Facebook, they said that there is 65 million, or how many million was that, using Facebook, in the Filipinos using Facebook, but it doesn't mean they can read the whole story or listen to the whole story of what happened in the left and what happened in the right, or what is wrong and what is right. But still, Facebook is just one of the source of social media, and now that Facebook, many of the political, not just in Philippines but around the world, is using Facebook as one of their black propaganda, which is really, really not a good example. It's luckily we have this another options where we can talk and people can just listen. By the way, now that they are using this social media in black propaganda and destroying what is right and just, um, we can also say that we can also help each other, not just only for Philippines but also around the world, that telling that the government should have put this social media some kind of regulatory system, which each country have the power also to control what is not the freedom of speech, but to show what is, because before we read books and we listen to the books, but now we see we touch social media and listen to social media. So if what happened before in Philippines, that we read in the books which was twisted, and now it's the same thing, it's only just it's a social media. And it's really good that we can have a help from you, especially explaining the international community and having communication with them. It's really, really nice.
Thank you
But
so much. Maraming salamat po. I really do appreciate your
Okay.
opinion, and I appreciate your question. I really do.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I read some question from comment section, Mr. Malcolm. This is about Facebook again. From Mausisang Utak, I have a question for Mr. Malcolm. Is it time for the government to impose restriction of Facebook or question its guidelines?
Again, I've said this before and I'll say this again. No, I really wouldn't want the Philippine government to restrict Facebook. But what I want them to do is put pressure on Facebook to ensure there is fairness. I believe the fact checkers should also include fact checkers from the office of the president. I believe it needs to be balanced. The only reason why I think Facebook must remain is people can get help. If people need help, if they're hungry, if the sap isn't being brought in their barangay, they can put something on Facebook. They can expose corruption via Facebook. 80% of all Filipinos in the world are on Facebook. And it is a fantastic tool for raising money for charity, for helping during COVID, during any pandemic, for helping with fundraising. Again, I remember back to the Typhoon Haiyan, where we were able to put appeals on Facebook and raise loads and loads of money for the Philippines. And we must have that. However many people come up with their own version of Facebook, nothing can beat Facebook in terms of reach. And as I said, the networks, Globe and Smart, they give Facebook free. It's a lifeline for families, particularly in remote parts of the Philippines. If you're an OFW working in the Middle East, you haven't been home for 10 years, the only way you can monitor your children, the only way you can see what's happening at your kids' school is through Facebook. Nothing else can give you that same traction, or nothing else can give you that same communication that Facebook can. And I'm sorry to say, if that was banned, that would be an absolute travesty for the Philippines. But Facebook do need to play fairer, and there does need to be a balance. But it's also the responsibility of users of Facebook to follow the community guidelines. That's all I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. Sana nasagot yung tanong mo, Mausisang Utak. Then, Philip Bren have two questions before the shouting all the comment section, and Mr. Malcolm take some water. Okay, so Philip Bren, go ahead. Before I proceed to Ate Bonds. Okay.
Yes, I have two questions from the audience, actually. This is from Plutarch. Plutarch is asking a question that regarding the communist pages, terrorist bashers of the president. he was asking, why was not? What is your reaction? Why were not they taken out, and why most of the DDS pages were taken out? She would like to ask your reaction regarding to this.
I think if you look at the Facebook community
Was there a lot?
guidelines, sorry. I think if you look at the Facebook community guidelines, they make this very clear. If anyone is using abusive language, if anybody is swearing, Facebook would take down that post. And with the greatest respect to my fellow supporters of the president, I would say this: if you're going to call somebody a CUN, or if you're going to say F this or F that, I don't blame you, because you're angry and emotional. If people are going to be swearing, they're going to take that post down. Only once in my whole 15 years of Facebook have I ever had a post taken down, and that's because of the amount of people swearing on my post. If you respect the community guidelines, if you don't target a particular person, if you don't show a picture that Facebook deems to be containing violence, if you said a very polite statement, like, I don't agree with the Communist Party because of this, Facebook wouldn't take down that post. Facebook take down posts, not because of the content, but because of the language used, the photos used, the targeting somebody. That's the community guidelines of Facebook. I'm not here to defend them, but all I would say is that if people have to know how to do these things, how to write. I know we're passionate. I know we get angry, but you cannot swear on Facebook. It's nothing to do with freedom of speech. Young people use Facebook. People might see your swear word and get offended. If you are polite, respectful, your posts will not get banned. It's as simple as that. I think we must have lost sound at your end.
Follow-up question. Okay. This is from Ed Pamintuan, one of your supporters. Yes, thank you so much, Ed Pamintuan. Mr. Malcolm, you mentioned about PCOO in your assessment. Are they doing their work for the Philippines in the international area?
Yes, I believe they are. I believe there have definitely been some improvements. I know Secretary Martin Andenar, who I have a lot of respect for. I believe he's personally written to a few news agencies recently. I think their work is not only about writing to journalists. I don't think you can respond to every single issue. I think you need to be selective. People write bad things about President Duterte every single day. I think it would be rather pathetic if we responded to every single issue. I get many messages from people saying, "Sir, my neighbor's cat got injured. Can you write a letter?" I'm only making an example, but what I'm saying is I get a lot of messages and you can't respond to every issue. I believe the PCOO is doing, they did the video on the drugs, the grammar, they've done grammar. They've done the big issues that need to be dealt with. But the thing is, you can't expect them to respond to every single issue. It takes all of us, including me, to write from our own personal perspective. If the government responded every single time they would be bashed, they would look like a laughing stock. And that's my opinion. So I believe, yes, they're doing a good job. I'm here to support them in any way that I can. Can they do more? Sometimes they're not aware of the issues. Not aware of every single issue. They don't have people reading the news 24/7, but where there are big issues, I know that they are being dealt with. You've lost sound again.
He said he's satisfied. He said, "Thank you so much, Mr. Malcolm." Okay. I'd like to shout out a few viewers and their comments. Okay. From Plutarch. Mega shout out to everyone. Okay, I'd like to make a shout out. K1 TV, thank you so much. Plutarch, Miss Labelle, who's watching right now, thank you so much. Emelda O'Neill, thank you so much. Ali Cute na Cute, thank you so much. Josie Vlog, thank you so much. CS Playground, thank you for watching. Manjin Shinbo, who's watching you. Thanks, Malcolm Conlan, for defending the Philippines in the government for foreign detractors. Thank you so much. Bernardine Belbandia, shout out. Pearl Russell, mega shout out to you. Yes, Ed Pamintuan, yes, the term of 6 years as per the present constitution previously. The president term is 4 years and they are entitled for re-election. Thank you. I think Miss Vodka Bell was so emotional of your answer. She was so happy. Okay. Thank you so much. Stephen Salafari, mega shout out and belated happy birthday to you, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, Imelda said, wow, I love Mr. Malcolm because he loves Tatay Digong. He always defends Tatay Digong because he knows that Tatay Digong is the best president ever. Thank you, Sir Malcolm. That's from Imelda. Sid. Imelda Omil Tolentino, here in Edmonton. Lots of homeless people, sorry to say, according to here. That Plutarch, okay, thank you for answering my question according to Plutarch. Madam Lipstick, mega shout out to you. Yes, thank you for watching. Okay, very inspiring, sabi ni Ed Pamintuan. Thank you so much. Brigadeng shout out from Per Russell. Yes. From Imelda Umil, big thanks to Mr. Malcolm for telling the truth regarding the Philippines. Mabuhay ka, sir. Thank you so much. Yes. Miss Savage, it is the FB policy in the Philippines that is flawed because of the policymaker, which is one of the yellow side. Yes, that is true. Jonald Serafin, I don't have any question, Mr. Malcolm Conlan, because my nose is bleeding. Only I can say this, God bless. Okay, thank you so much. Alma Hudson, mega shout out. Good answer regarding Pulse Asia, Mr. Malcolm. Yeltards believe what they believe in. They are big denial. Salamat po. Thank you so much. Danila Kai, that's right, Mr. Malcolm. That's what I want to recommend. But maybe better if Facebook will be supervised by pro-government people. That is a suggestion. Pa one like, one share po tayo lahat. Thank you so much. Bash, mega shout out to you. Remar Baligwat, mega shout out to you, ma'am. Okay, salute to Malcolm. Aba, ang daming, you have many fans, Mr. Malcolm, huh? Oh, many fans from the Philippines. Remar Baligwat, thank you, sir, for defending our president. God bless, from Remar. Yeah. Miss Kulit, mega shout out to you. Miss Kulit, salamat po. Thank you so much. Martial law, Plutarch said, martial law na kasi para gupiin ang mga hayop na yan. Ay, HB na naman ako, bodyguard. Nasaan ka na? Oh, may someone's in high blood pressure. Okay. Okay, at Pemamtuan, improvement. Thank you so much. Okay, that's all, sir. Shout out from Salamin ng Buhay to Bargadeng. Thank you so much. Okay, back to you, sir.
Okay. So, Ate Bones, you have the question?
Maybe before I go down, I just want to ask Mr. Malcolm his impression. Mr. Malcolm, have you seen that was it 3 days ago when President Duterte spoke to the people and there was this military people behind him? Have you seen that?
I haven't. That's one thing I haven't. Can you explain what happened, please?
Because that short video, he was asking for our legislator to set aside political issues and just pass the budget. But then, because there was this chaos happening in our legislator now, and so he spoke out, and that is the first time that he have the military behind him. There was these 4 generals behind him, which is the Navy, the Army, Police, and Air Force. And if I will ask you just a personal answer maybe, and if you saw a president and there was this military behind him, what is your impression about it? His subject, what he was talking is nothing politics. He only asked the legislator to set aside politics and do the budget so we can survive for the next year. And he said strongly that if you cannot solve the problem, then he will solve it. That was really strong word, but for us, for me, I took it like so positive because then he stood up and do his role as a president. But for some people, they made it very strong in a way that the president is declaring martial law or too much dictator. So as in your personal answer, like what is your impression about it, or if a president have the military behind him and saying that because of his will to have the budget pass on, what is your impression?
Thank you. I am aware of part of the issue. Sorry, we just need to lose the feedback again. I am aware of the issues. I hadn't particularly seen the photo of the president with the military, but I would say this: President Duterte has a lot of trust in military men. In terms of his government, he has a lot of respect for the military. He's drawn on a lot of his co-workers and cabinet workers. He'd like them to be from the military, particularly now during the COVID-19 pandemic. You have to appreciate that President Duterte draws on the military to be able to lead the country. He draws on their experience. So I wouldn't read too much into it. To all of the people who are talking about martial law in the Philippines, I don't think personally, I'm not a supporter of martial law at the moment. I don't think the Philippines has reached that stage. I think if the Philippines suddenly declared martial law, I think that would cause a problem with tourism, that would cause a problem with businesses going into the Philippines, and it would be unstabilizing. Regarding the issue of the House Speaker, Secretary Cayetano, who I've met many times, and obviously I know him, and this other Velasco, I would say this: it was a gentleman's agreement. I don't know how it was even done as a gentleman's agreement. I don't really know the history. All I would say is that the budget is very, very important and absolutely crucial, particularly during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, money needs to be sorted out. The president needs to know where the money's coming from his remaining 2 years in office. It's his difficult. It's not the best timing. It is a mess. There is no doubt about that. And I think the president was saying strongly, if you don't sort this out, I will. But would he use the military? No, I don't believe he would. Would he declare martial law? No, I don't believe he would. But the fact is, I think he was saying in the strongest possible terms that this needs to be sorted out now for the good of the country. And that's my personal opinion.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Malcolm. Thank you. You know, that words that you said, it's very important. And if you may, you can watch that video from RTVM of the whole video about it. And he spoke in English at the same time in Tagalog, but I know you can understand it. So you can relay his words, because after that, I have seen so much international news about it, and it was really not a good one. And it's difficult that people now in Philippines, especially the vloggers, or also this media, they are now focusing on what happened in our legislator and the speakership. They are not anymore defending or explaining what is that message is for. And for the point of view that you have now, and if you can have something about it, it would be very nice, so that these international people can also understand that it is not about dictatorship or martial law or whatever black propaganda it is.
I will take that on board. I've just had a few issues that I've been dealing with over the last few days. I must admit, I hadn't really paid much attention to that. I normally look at all of the news, but again, I've missed that. I will now respond to it. Thank you for bringing it to my attention.
Yeah, because that is a very important communication for the international people, that they will understand. Thank you very much, Malcolm.
Salamat po.
Okay, thank you very much, Ate Bon, sa tanong mo, and of course to you, Mr. Malcolm. But bago ho tayo, before the continue ng ating topic, magko-commercial muna tayo. Ha? So magpo-proceed tayo after the break. Panoorin ho natin ang commercial from Salamin ng Buhay.
Sa mundo ng social media, ikaw ay nakisabay. Kaya talagang ang isang tulad mo ay doon nababagay. Ang pagbibigay mo ng tunay na balita at ang magagandang katangian mo na nakita ko sa iyong mga salita. Hindi ka man gustuhin ng iilan, pero mahal ka naman ng karamihan. Ang isang kagaya sa mundo ng social media, ikaw ay nakisabay. Kaya talagang ang isang tulad mo ay doon nababagay. Ang pagbibigay mo ng tunay na balita at ang magagandang katangian mo na nakita ko sa iyong mga salita. Hindi ka man gustuhin ng iilan, pero mahal ka naman ng karamihan. Ang isang kagaya mo ay talagang dapat purihin dahil ang mga balita at reaksyon mo ay talagang walang dahilan para ikay batikusin. Maganda kang ehemplo sa mamamayan, lalo na sa mga batang ligaw ang kaalaman. Nagsisilbi kang gabay sa mga taong naliligaw ang pananaw sa buhay. Reaksyon TV, isa kang tunay na makabayan. Makabayan na talagang tutulong sa abot ng iyong makakaya dahil ang isang kagaya mo ay walang hiling kundi ang makapagbigay saya. Saya na walang sino man ang makakapantay sa mga bigay mong gabay. Sana pagpalain ka pa ng puong may kapal at mawala yung mga tao sa buhay mo na nakasagabal dahil talagang bilib ako sa taglay mong katapangan at sa mga reaksyon mo na walang kinikilingan.
Itong pamilyang hinahanap, kung saan may boses ang lahat. Mainit na issue pinag-uusapan, halina tayo'y magkwentuhan. Reaksyon TV, ikaw ang tunay. Komento mo ay ibigay. Sama-sama tayo'y magkaisa at saluhin ang bagong umaga. Ano pa ba ang iyong hinihintay? Halika na at sumakay sa pangarap na iyong inaasam. Nahawak ko sa iyong kamay. Reaksyon TV, ikaw ang tunay. Komento mo ay ibigay. Sama-sama tayo'y magkaisa at saluhin ang bagong umaga. Asahan mo dito'y kaibigan ka, ang puso't diwa ay para sa mata. Sa reaksyon.
Okay, so nagbabalik tayo mga Reaction TV at dito po sa ating usapan na mga random question kay Mr. Malcolm. And thank you very much sa mga naandyan no, sa atin. At Philip Bren, kasama pa rin natin si Ate Bones and Mr. Malcolm dito pa rin sa Reaction TV. And of course, marami tayong question. And Philip Bren, sige, pakitanong mo na yung mga dapat nating question. At meron akong question mamaya, yung napaka-importanting question kay Mr. Malcolm. Sige.
Sige, unahin mo. Sir, reaction. You can proceed po muna. Nagbabasa lang ako ng comments para makita ko yung mga questions.
Okay, sige.
Proceed with your question.
Okay. Sabi ni from Rimal Baligwat. Ayan. Regarding to my question, sir, about the anti-government who paid for a many dummy account who contradict if someone posts about how the words our president makes our country better.
I'll go ahead and I'll talk a little bit about dummy accounts. You know, there's dummy accounts on all sides. Not only in the opposition, there's also some people who pretend to be DDS so they can make like a dummy account or something, or paid advertising. It happens on all sides. And I can understand that if Facebook believe an account is a troll account, a farmed account, a bot account, i.e. all the news is exactly the same on 50 different accounts, then you can understand why Facebook maybe would take that account out of service. But, you know, look at myself, look at the Mocha Uson blog, look at Thinking Pinoy, all of the big bloggers. They don't have their account taken down because they are sharing their own personal opinion. You know, the Mocha Uson blog makes it very clear that it's her personal opinion. And I think nobody can stop your personal opinion. As long as you don't share stuff that you shouldn't be sharing, i.e., something that you're not sure if it's genuine, don't share it. I think as long as you share your own personal opinion and what you believe is correct, then that's fine. But if you share fake news, then don't be surprised if the account doesn't get pulled.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Miss Rimar nasagot yung question. Okay, thank you very much. Philip Bren, do you have some question to Mr. Malcolm? And
Yes,
Likar Kabudol have one
Likar.
question. Okay, Mr. Malcolm, what is your comment about what happened today that Congress led to Speaker in Congress into Congress?
It's embarrassing.
What is your opinion?
It's embarrassing. You know, Congress is Congress. You know, you can't, it's just ridiculous. It could never happen in other countries, only in the Philippines. It could never happen in the UK. It's completely and utterly embarrassing. You cannot rely on a gentleman's agreement. Either one person was voted as House Speaker for a particular period of time. The mistake was making a gentleman's agreement and shaking hands. What should have happened is the Speaker should have been elected by Congress until a certain date, and that should have been mandated into law, and then the next person would take over. You know, you can't rely on two people shaking a hand. Oh, I'll take over on this day. That should never have happened, and this is why there's such a mess at the moment.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Likar Kabud. Sana nasagot yung iyong question. And Philip Bren, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. I need your reaction on this one. Since we are talking about the speakership, I'll ask you something. This is only your personal opinion. It doesn't matter what your answer would be. Regarding the two guys, no, it's Cayetano and who was the other one? Velasquez. Which would you choose if you were given a chance?
I said to my family actually that you would ask me that question. I knew that you would ask that question. You know, I've got to give you an honest opinion. I've met Senator Cayetano or Alan Peter Cayetano many times. I met him when we went to Geneva, where he was vigorously defending the president. There's no doubt about that. He made a fantastic speech defending the president with his life almost. And the fact is, I know that I can only go by when I met him. He was very courteous to me, was very pleasant to me, mentioned me by name during his speech. And also I met him at the Build conference in the Conrad Hotel in Manila as well. And again, he was very pleasant and he answered my question. I don't know the history. All I can do is go, but I've met Pia Cayetano as well, and she was very nice and very pleasant, and she's put some very good laws into place. She's gone for the reproductive health bill, everything else that she's done, the divorce bill. She's doing a good job. I can only go by what I can see. I don't know Velasco at all. I've never researched into him. I've never met him. All I can say is from what I can see, and I don't know the history, and I don't want to get bashed, from what I can see, Cayetano defends President Duterte on the international stage. He's an excellent speaker and is a good speaker in defending the president on the international stage. Now, that's all I can say, political colors aside.
Thank you so much. Oh, yes, it was a very good...
The second Congress and the second speaker is the Banana Republic. Banana Republics are created by anti-government. Sa mga banana field, pag nagtatago sila from the government, mga terorista, ganyan ang mga boat. This some opinion, not proper.
President Duterte. Okay, so President Duterte was exactly right to stand up, as it's now been mentioned to me. I didn't know that. President Duterte was exactly right to stand up and say enough is enough, as was Mayor Inday Sara Duterte, who's also recently commented as well. I believe they are both right to stand up and do what's best for the country. This is not a time for political struggles. This is not a time for bitching, basically, about who's going to be doing what. You know, it's not a time for that. The Philippines needs help. Laws need to be passed. Finance needs to be sorted out. This is not a time for politics. This is not a time for showing political colors. This is a time for the country to be united in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. And the only way the country is to be united is if there is one Congress operating from the Congress. While you have this mess in place, it's going to be embarrassing to the international community on the international stage. 1 minute you have President Duterte with a satisfaction rating of 91%, and everyone can see that things are going very well in the Philippines. And then you have this embarrassing situation that's happening via Congress.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Malcolm. But I have some question to you about the social media, of course. Okay, so here is my question. Just want to ask you about this hot topic now in social media. About the hybrid election system, do you have any idea about it?
Yes.
Because Attorney Glenn Chong is your friend, right? So do you have idea about the hybrid election?
I've met him a few times. I have met Attorney Glenn Chong a few times, and I do like him, and I like what he's standing for. And I feel that he's got a bit of a battle on his hands. There are going to be people who prefer the system the way it is now. There has been for a very long time now corruption in voting. For a very long time now, for example, your province, everyone gets 300 pesos to vote for this barangay captain, and then all of a sudden somebody goes and gives 1,000 pesos to vote for that barangay captain, and you vote the one who's given the 1,000 pesos, but for the next 3 years he does absolutely nothing. It's the same as politicians who basically would say build a bridge, for example, and they would start building the bridge. They would be right on there, built by senator or built by congressman on that bridge. And that's exactly why in Davao you won't find that. That's exactly why you won't find the name of the politician on that. At the moment, the electoral system in the Philippines needs to be reformed. It has to be reformed. I'm not a Filipino voter, but all I can say is, to me, it seems complicated and it needs to be made more straightforward. But the fact is that I'm sure there's a lot of organizations with a lot of money in their pockets and a lot of things happening. And I think that what's being proposed, I think, is very good. I think Attorney Glenn Chong has a very good understanding of the electoral system. He's been campaigning for this for many, many years. I haven't looked at it myself personally, I have to admit, but I would say that I do support him in what he's trying to do. I know that he has a love for the Philippines, a love for the country deep in his heart, and I fully support him on this stance.
Okay, thank you very much. But another question to you. Do you think the Philippines need to have the clean election? Should we adopt the hybrid election system? Like, I know the UK from UK is counting manual election, right?
Correct. Well, you know, the fact is, we've had this system in the UK for many, many years. I don't know, for hundreds of years, a long time. I don't know. I don't know my British history. But all I would say is, you know, if it can happen in the UK, why can't it happen in the Philippines? It's very simple. We have a parliamentary system here in the UK, which means that the leaders are much more accountable. We have a weekly question time, whereas the prime minister can be questioned. I think the problem in the Philippines is there's still, as much as I admire and support the Duterte family, the problem in the Philippines is there are some political families who, by tradition, the father takes over, then the son, then the brother, and you get some 18-year-old who's got absolutely no experience of politics becoming vice mayor because it's sort of a family business. And I think somehow, some way, that needs to change. I think a lot of people are campaigning for another election system and for a federal parliament. And I'm inclined to agree with that. There needs to be more accountability. Don't get me wrong. I think President Duterte's done a fantastic job. He should see out his term. I personally have another person in mind to take over when President Duterte leaves office. But all I would say is if there was to be a change in the system, I think in the long run, it would reduce corruption. It would encourage foreign investment. And I think it would be better for the country.
Yes,
Very
thank
well
you very
said.
much. And but Mr. Malcolm, a lot of people, in Filipino people, shouting to want change. Then, personally to you, how do you think the people can participate to achieve the clean election in the Philippines? What do you think?
Social media plays a big part. You know, the problem is, I think it's up to it's the responsibility of every single Filipino before they share something on Facebook, before they share something on social media, they must make sure it's clean, it's true, it's not bashing somebody, it's not personally being critical of somebody's family. You know, I believe that every Filipino should be responsible for sharing real news, and where there is something that's corrupt, they have the 8888 number in the Philippines. You know, there is a way of reporting corruption. There is a way of reporting government officials that are not performing. I just think the Filipino people, particularly the 11 million OFWs abroad, should be playing a bigger part. I'm sad to say, and I hate to say this, there'll be some negative Filipinos who probably haven't been home in 30 years, live in America, have no connection with the country. Their children have never even been to the Philippines. I believe it's the responsibility of every single Filipino to go to the Philippines on a regular basis to support their country, unless, of course, they're in the Middle East and they can't go. I understand that. But what I am saying is it's up to the people to be there. It's up to the people to exercise their right to vote. It's up to the people to share their voice. And it's through the people that there can be this change.
Okay, thank you very much for your good answer. Okay, before we proceed, another question. I have very, very special question. Okay, about the hybrid election. I ask you, before the question of a hybrid election, do you know Attorney Glentong, right?
Yes.
Attorney Glentong is your friend. This is my question to you, Mr. Malcolm. Do you support his advocate for clean election in the Philippines? Because Attorney Glentong is author of a hybrid election people's version. What is your support? Please tell
1,000%.
tell us.
I totally support Attorney Glenn Chong. You know, I was invited to a speech that he had in the UK recently. I think it was absolutely brutal what happened to his colleague Red, I believe his bodyguard. I think that's absolutely awful. And that's just devastating. And, he has my sympathies. He has my support. I don't know the history. I'm not going to get involved in that at all. All I would say is that, I hear these. My wife's from Pangasinan, from San Carlos, Pangasinan. And I remember about 10 years ago, the mayor of San Carlos, who came to our house in the Philippines on a few occasions, and he was an absolutely wonderful man. He was brutally assassinated at a beauty contest in the city plaza about 10 years ago. And I think it's really sad that there is so much people being murdered, so many corruptions in the Philippines. I just wish that the system was fairer, and I believe the only way the system can be fairer is perhaps move to a system that we have in the UK, where, for example, every single voting station, you have police officers there who monitor it. You have people who are picked randomly from the electoral register. People put their vote on a pencil in a piece of paper. It gets stuck in a lockbox. It gets taken high security to a polling station and it gets counted. I think the electoral system has to change. I remember back to the days of Smart Magic. I was watching it on ABS-CBN in the previous elections, where 1 minute one particular candidate had something like 2 million votes, and the next minute they had candidate had 5 million votes, and you could see that on the screen. As far as I'm concerned, the system that the Philippines has at the moment, it's very easy to manipulate numbers. If you're a clever computer programmer, it's very easy to throw in a few 100,000 more votes, and that needs to be eliminated. A fairer electoral system will achieve that.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Malcolm. Do you think hybrid election is the answer for the political problem in the Philippines?
I think it's a combination of things. Of course, the electoral system needs to be changed, but I think it's the Filipino people themselves. There are some people who say bad things about their country, who bash their own country. Until the people's mindset would change, until the people wouldn't stand up for corruption anymore, they would report corruption. They wouldn't rely on having to go abroad. They would hopefully find jobs in the Philippines, and they would do whatever they can. I think the people have to change as well, not just the system. People have to trust the system more, but right now, because of rampant corruption, sadly, the Filipinos, I understand that rightfully, they don't have that trust. And until that changes, I think it's going to be hard, if not impossible, to change things.
Thank you very much, Mr. Calman. We have 18 minutes remaining for the close.
It's a long show today.
Our live.
I think it's probably...
Yeah. I'm sorry, Mr. Malcolm, because too much question. But okay, Ate Bonds, go ahead.
Hello. I don't have any question anymore for Mr. Malcolm, because he have spoken really a lot and very detailed, and I really appreciate all the answers he have given, and it's really a music to our ears, and we can also see his dedications and his efforts for all of this. And Mr. Malcolm, our president for this since 2016 until now, he have fought war on drugs, cleans our Philippine National Police, have been in many disasters, these weather disasters, and then we have now this pandemic, and then worse than pandemic is we have these political issues, and then he's also facing the corruptions, and then now we are believing that one of the key answer for all of these things is the hybrid election system. Mr. Malcolm, the reason why I talked to you about international community from the start, it is because we believe or at least I believe that in the coming last years of our president, especially next year, we need investors. And because when investors comes in, as you have said a while ago, that people will start to believe in our government, in our system, and people will find jobs in our country. And that is one of the answer, to have the investors. And having you as one of our voices in international, especially in the international area, is a very, very good help for us. And I really appreciate your help, and I hope that you will still continue to be our voice, especially in the international community, so that these investors will believe on us and will have their investment in our country. And many of our OFW are now in Philippines, so they can have their job and start their lives. And I really appreciate your help.
I really
Thank you.
appreciate that. I really do appreciate your comments. I think it is the responsibility of all of us, but I think we need to keep the pressure up. I think we need to keep on doing things like this. And I'd like to salute you guys. I'd like to salute Reaksyon TV for spreading the real news. I'd like to ask all of my fellow countrymen, although I'm not Filipino myself, to share the real news, to get the real news out there so that we can combat the fake news of the opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malcolm. And once again, Mr. Malcolm, I would like to thank you because you come on my live streaming. And Mr. Philip Bren, do you have some last word for Mr. Malcolm before to end? Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to thank Malcolm especially for his hard work for the Philippines and for the Filipino people. I appreciate what you're doing. I've been following you on FB and YouTube. I'm one of your followers, and I really salute you, Sir Malcolm. In behalf of the Filipino people, in behalf of the Philippines, my salute to you, Pusong Pinoy.
Maraming salamat.
Yes.
And I really do appreciate you also supporting my channel. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate the time that you've taken today to speak to me. And, you know, I think that you guys make a real difference to the lives of the Filipino people. You know, there's so many frustrated OFWs in their house, maybe in the Middle East, whatever it may be, domestic workers who feel they have no voice. And it's through shows like this, and it's through this that we can give them that voice. And it's so, so important. So I would also like to salute you and your team, of course.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Malcolm. Then, Mr. Malcolm, once again, thank you very much. And I salute you to help the other Filipino people, and your heart is a very, very big for helping Filipino community. And of course, you depend or our President Duterte. Thank you very much. We appreciate your what you're doing, and thank you very much. I hope, or we hope, it's not the last time for guests here at Reaksyon TV, because Reaksyon TV is very careful to reveal the other news of fake news. I don't want the fake news. I want real news, because we want to give information to our kababayan, all Filipino around the world. So I don't want to share fake news. I'm not same like Maria Ressa or Rappler. Yeah, I mention it because I don't want. Okay, then a lot of Filipino, because of money talk, so real news is another fake news. All right, Philip Brand?
Yes, tama ka. You are right.
And I think the thing is, you've allowed me to express my personal opinion, and that's the thing, isn't it? You know, we're not disputing a particular news item. What we're doing is we're sharing our views, and I think that's so important. I think we're reacting to topical news, which we have every right to do, and you should continue doing that. I really salute you in your advocacy. A lot of people clearly rely on you in ensuring that we are reacting to the news, and we should continue to do so.
Thank
you
you very
so
much,
much.
Mr.
Thank
Malcolm.
you so
Now,
much.
we proceed, Philip Bren, to promote the program of Mr. Malcolm, Pusong Pinoy. Mr.
Yes.
Malcolm, Mike is yours. It's your time to promote your program to our kababayan. Title is Pusong Pinoy, right?
Correct, Tama. Pusong Pinoy with Malcolm Conlan. And I have to be honest and say it's not a political show. I don't comment on politics at all. It's about Philippine culture, Philippine community, and it's something that I've always been passionate about. You know, just because I happen to comment on politics, I happen to support the president, it doesn't necessarily mean that I want to start having a political channel. I leave that to you guys, and you can ask me as a guest anytime. But in terms of my show, what I want to do is I want to support the Philippines and support Filipino communities and interview Filipinos on immigration, on matters of concern. So you can watch my show on YouTube. Just type in Pusong Pinoy with Malcolm Conlan. And of course, I'd ask you to watch my show every Sunday. You're welcome to recommend any guests. And if any of you guys wanted to recommend a guest as well. But as I said, I do try and avoid politics on my show. Thank you so much. You've shown the people my show, and it's there. And I really am grateful for that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, please visit please visit Pusong Pinoy by Malcolm Conlan. It's not a political, this is not a political agenda. What you doing, sir, for Pusong Pinoy?
So it's just promoting the Philippines, promoting the country that I love, promoting the people that I love. You know, it's not something that is a monetized channel. I do have sponsors, and I'm very grateful to my sponsors. But, you know, that allows me to make the channel. You know, I don't have the technical ability that you guys have. In fact, I have zero technical ability at all. But thankfully, I have somebody who helps me with the tech. And this show is to promote my love for the country and passion for the country.
Wow. Pusong Pinoy, Series 4. Wow. Series 4.
Actually, his show makes me hungry. Jollibee.
It's funny, actually, because I've been to Jollibee about 100 times. And, you know, there was this time where some DDS was saying that Jollibee is trying to oust Duterte. That's absolutely rubbish. That was absolutely fake news. That's not the case at all. It's just sometimes you have to look at the stories yourself. You know, if somebody's criticized me, I don't listen to them. I look myself for the real news, and the real news is that was fake news. The fact is, Jollibee is an important business because it employs many people in the United Kingdom, and of course it employs thousands of people around the Philippines. They pay a lot of taxes, contribute towards the economy, and that's why they have my support, because they are helping people through employment. They're helping people through the pandemic. So of course I'm going to support them. I'm also supporting Spoon and Rice as well, which is a new business that's just opened in the UK as well, because again, they're employing people, they're bringing jobs, and we need jobs. So we should all be doing that. It's the responsibility of every single Filipino to promote every single Filipino business. That's what I'd like to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malcolm. So mga Reaksyon TV, sayang ho, wala na tayong oras. 910 viewers, Mr. Malcolm, 900 our viewers now. So too much. Thank you very much. And
can I say one more thing?
Mr. Malcolm,
if you have any more questions, you're welcome to message me. Just because we've ended the show doesn't mean that I can't stop responding to questions. I'm very happy later on to maybe respond to questions on Facebook. I can hold another session. You know, I'd be very happy to answer all of your questions.
yes, thank you very much, Mr. Malcolm. For the last word tonight, Ate Bons Harley. Ate Bons, do you have a comment to Mr. Malcolm before to end our live streaming? Ate Bons, go ahead. Mic is yours.
Thank you very much for having me here, and thank you so much, Mr. Malcolm, for for all the efforts and dedications you have done. It's really an honor to have you. I really appreciate. I have been following you since 2016, and I have seen you how much your love to our country. It was love, 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 lovely as more. And I have seen you really, and I look at you and thank you very much. Thank you, and God bless, and please continue to do what you have been doing. We are
Maraming
always with
salamat.
you.
Please
Thank
message
you.
me as well. Just message me later. Maraming salamat. Thank you. It's been really
Okay,
nice talking
thank
to you.
you. Thank you. I will.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Malcolm. Okay. So, ayun na, nagre-reply naman no, si Mr. Malcolm. If you want to talk, Mr. Malcolm, so please send to him. So, he reply immediately. Maybe after 30 minutes. Because
I need to
he's
eat
very busy. Busy.
Very
Busy
hungry.
guy. Yeah.
My dinner is delayed by 2
Mr.
hours.
Malcolm. Mr. Malcolm, last word, I request to you, this is not a last time because I know what you're doing and I very, very salute you. We salute you to protect and to promote our kababayan and Philippines also. Thank you very much. You have a great, great heart. Thank you very
Maraming
much.
salamat. You know, I'd just like to give again, I'd like to say thank you so much. I'd like to greet every single person who's been watching this live stream. I'm very sorry I haven't had the chance to greet you all by name. It would be impossible. But what I can say is thank you so much for your support of the Philippines. Thank you so much for your support of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte and everything he's doing for the country. Thank you for supporting the Duterte administration. Thank you for supporting the Philippines and, of course, supporting your families, particularly to the OFWs. I'd like to thank you for your enormous contribution to the Philippines. Maraming salamat po. Stay safe. Ingat po dyan. Mabuhay at salamat po.
Thank you very much, Mr. Malcolm. Bye-bye, Mr. Malcolm. Thank you very much. Mr. Malcolm, say goodbye, okay, for this moment. Okay, thank you, Mr. Malcolm. Bye-bye po. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, so, okay. Shoutout muna tayo. Shoutout po natin yung mga kaibigan ho natin. And, Mr. Malcolm is very hungry now. Thank you. Ang haba ng oras natin kay Mr. Malcolm today. But thank you very much kay Mr. Malcolm. Okay, so
one like, one share po. Marami na tayong viewers at one like, one share na po. Salamat.
Okay, so Ate Bons Harley, thank you very much din sa iyo sa iyong pag-alalay sa amin. At maraming salamat. At once again, thank you very much sa naging guest natin, Mr. Malcolm. We salute you, Mr. Malcolm Conlan.
Yes.
Okay, so Philippine, proceed na.
Shoutout muna tayo. Shoutout muna tayo.
Okay, may sasabihin si Ate Bons. Okay, Ate Bons, go ahead.
Bababa na ako. Thank you, Sir Reaksyon and co-host Philippine. Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
and
Miss
bye-bye. And bye-bye.
Salamat, Miss Bons. Thank you
Salamat.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, shoutout muna tayo sa mga ating mga viewers dito. Shoutout kay Miss Rubes. Great. Salamat po, ma'am. At ikaw yung napa-unlock dito.
Philippine,
Ervin.
bago ka mag-shoutout, batiin muna natin ng happy birthday. Belated happy birthday kasi kahapon kayong birthday niya. Okay, Philippine, you need to dance because Salapari birthday yesterday. So Stephen Salapari for you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Hey, happy birthday to you.
na ano na naman silang lahat. At shoutout po kay Manang Per. Sige, Philippine, proceed your shoutout.
Yes, habang nagpre-prepare si Reaksyon ng mga isang topic natin, magsha-shoutout tayo. Nightfall, mega shoutout, Smart Magic ang sabi. Sabi ni Provision HPB, mega shoutout sa iyo. Salamin ng boy, shoutout sa inyo. Yes. Moses Ano Utak, mega shoutout. Sabi ni Ricardo Cabono, correct, easy to manipulate. Only human did the program, not the machine itself. Tama po yun, no? Sabi ni Remar Baligwat, yeah, but it needs to take down the first corrupt officers. Tama po kayo, ma'am, no? Tama yan. Many are lobbying the Smartmatic to be removed, not to be used in the election. Yes, tama yan, tama yan. Thank you so much, Mr. Malcolm, sabi ni Lecar Cabodo. And sa hybrid election, Steven Salapari, related happy birthday, bro, and enjoy your day. Take care. Yan,
Yes.
sabi ni
Please support
Nightfall.
hybrid election, ha? Hybrid election, please support Reaction TV. 1,000 viewers na po tayo, mga ka-Reaction TV. Ha? Sa lahat ng mga nandito, nasa Facebook, sa YouTube, 1,000 viewers na po tayo. Baka naman po kailanganin ng kahit man lang 10% ng 1,000, gawin nyo ng 100 yung like. Para naman po sa inyo. Gawin nyo na pong 100 lang yung like. 1,000 na po tayo eh. Sige, Philippine.
Mercy Roger, mega shoutout, salute to you all. Sabi ni Marlon Cantos, big salute to you, Mr. Malcolm, Reaction TV, laban, Pilipinas, salamin ng buhay, laban, sabi niya. Remar Baligwat, that's why I support PRD. I believe that a great president should stop corruption by his power. Thank you so much, Mr. Malcolm. ACTV, laban reaction, laban Pilipinas. Tama po yun. Nightfall, yeah, fake news is pain in the ass. Tama yan. Please support all the vloggers. Sabi ni Melda O'Neill, El Pamintuan, stay safe and God bless Mr. Malcolm to your family. Sabi ni Bernaldine Belmedia, thank you Mr. Malcolm, God bless. Okay, shout out Bernaldine, sabi ni ACTV. Salamat po. Plutarch, go daw ang Lakers to all sports supporting BLM. Ayan, nawalan tuloy sila ng maraming pera. Kaya nag-backtrack ang NBA commissioner. Tama yon. You are correct. They use it for politics. You are correct. Groups grade, yes, mega shout. Yes, why I engineer Wiz, ha? Mega shout out. Okay. Sige pa, okay na.
Sana po yung mga kababayan ho natin na naging masaya ho sa topic ho natin ngayong araw. I would like to shout out and syempre babatiin natin yung mga kaibigan ho natin from MDYA. Ha? Alam nyo ho kung sino tinutukoy ko. MDYA, shout out po sa inyong lahat po ng solid MDYA, Marcos Duterte Youth Alliance. Mabuhay po kayo, shout out po kayo sa lahat ng mga nakikinig dyan. Thank you po sa inyo. Napaka-supportive nyo po. Thank you very much sa kanilang si Miko Aldabe at sa lahat ng mga nandito na mga hindi ko pa ho kakilala sa Reaction TV at sa MDYA. Shout out po sa inyo lahat. And of course, shout out din po sa BBMYA. Yan po yung nakasama natin last Saturday na sila Miko Aldabe. And of course, shout out din kay Maui Becker na nagpapasalamat to tayo last Saturday. Sa lahat po ng mga nandito, gusto nyong mag-guest, gusto nyo magkaroon ng ibang topic, pwede ho kayong mag-message sa Facebook page ng Reaction TV. Andyan ho, puntahan nyo po yan. At pwede ho kayong mag-request ng mga topic. Pwede ho yan. Dahil dito po sa Reaction TV, lahat po kayo bida. Dahil tayo po ay isang pamilya rito. And of course, shout out kay Mr. Danny Lakay, kay Manong Danny, kay Mausisang Utak. Ayan. Thank you very much. Now, meron lang akong pahagingan lang. Ito ang tanong. Tungkol ho sa mga speakership. Dalawa na po ang speaker natin. Hindi na ho ako magbibigay ng maraming komento. But magtatanong lang ho ako sa inyo. Ang tanong ko lang ho sa inyo mga Reaction TV. Ganito. Pabor ba kayo sa nangyari sa Congress kanina? Pabor po ba kayo na nagkaroon po ng bagong speaker? Kasi kung sino yung mga nakakaalala ng last live streaming natin, Philip Ren, siguro na-remember mo. Sabi ko sa mga live streaming natin, kung gusto talaga ni Velasco, sa alyansa ni Velasco, Philip Ren, na yung grupo ni Velasco ay magkaroon ng bagong speaker, dapat i-vacant nila. Kasi yun naman talaga dapat. At kung may boboto o wala. Then, kanina pagising ko ng umaga, napapanood ko alam nyo kung kanina ako nanonood? Doon sa live streaming ni Rappler. Kasi wala akong makita Wala akong makita na ibang nagla-live stream kundi kay Rappler. So no choice po ako para panoorin. No choice ako na panoorin yung live streaming ng Rap. Pero ang ina-after ko doon yung palabas, hindi yung sa channel nila. Doon kasi nagbobotohan sila for vacant na yung speakership para nominate sila ng bagong House Speaker. Then nakapag-nominate po sila ng speaker at ang nanalo po nakakuha ng 186 votes si Alan Lord Velasco. Ang tanong ko po sa ganito. Ang tanong ko po sa inyo, kayo po ba ay pabor sa nangyari botohan sa labas ng Congress? Kasi yung ginawa nila, pinagdausan nila, yung location nila is sa Celebrity Hall. Celebrity Hall ng Quezon City. Hindi po sa loob ng Congress. Kayo po ba ay agree doon sa nangyari? Yun po yung katanungan ko sa inyo. Sige po. Ikaw, Philip Bren, ano ang magiging komento mo doon? 1,042 viewers po tayo. Ano po ang inyong masasabi?
Yes, sir. Magpo-comment ako dyan, no? The Lorax po, i-shoutout kita, The Lorax, Julie Bengson, and the Mami Labrava. Mega shoutout sa inyo. Pasensya po, na-late out, nag-shoutout. Pasensya po, pero lahat try natin, i-shoutout, ha? Para sa akin po, it's not, hindi kasi siya official venue, sir, no? At hindi naman po, hindi kasi ako, honestly, no? Hindi ako nakapanood. Hindi ko alam kung kompleto ba doon ang mga congressman na nagboto. At para sa akin, no, hindi po siya kasi official venue Walang mga ibang partido, walang ibang ayaw, no. So for me, no, pasensya na po ang matamaan or pasensya na po ang hindi sang-ayon sa akin, no. Para sa akin po hindi po kasi siya official venue and mga ibang congressman po wala doon, no. So dapat po kasi nasa official venue tayo bago magbotohan at it is sanctioned by the chairman of the Congress, no. Diba? Yung may naihawak ng martilyo na session, no? It, for me, in my honest opinion, hindi po ako papot. Pasensya po.
Yes.
Okay. Ayan ang opinion ko, sir.
Thank you very much. Kasi ako, as a ordinary Filipino, ordinary citizen ng Pilipinas, ako nakita ko doon. Ito, correct me if I'm wrong, mga ka-Reaksyon TV. I-correct nyo ako kung mali yung aking pananaw, yung aking komento. Gusto ko lang malaman sa inyo at gusto ko lang din na kung sabihin sa inyo kung tama ba yung aking opinion dito sa nakikita ko. Kasi meron tayong Congress. Okay lang hindi ipinagbabawal sa batas na tayo ay gumamit ng ibang venue kapag nakasarado ang plenary. Okay? Nakasarado ang plenary, pwede tayong magdaos ng ibang venue. Like example, naalala nyo po yung nangyari sa Volcan Taal na nagkaroon sila ng special session, ginanap din yan doon sa Celebrity Hall. Diba? Then yung naalala nyo rin po yung nagkataon na sarada din ang plenaryo noong meron tayong nagaganap na mga krimen sa Pilipinas, yung martilyogang. Tama? Ginanap po yon sa labas din ng plenaryo ng Congress. So, okay lang po yon. Wala problema. Okay? But, kung ang pinag-uusapan po ay yung pagiging speakership at yung susunod na magiging leader o speaker ng Congress, saan po dapat ginaganap? Saan po dapat yung proper venue? Di ba dapat po sana sa loob ng Congress? Kasi doon po yung, kumbaga, ang Congress po kasi ay matatawag nating isang napakasagradong lugar na kung saan kung maglalagay ka, magtatalaga ka ng mga leader, dapat doon po sa loob ng iyong sagradong lugar. Tama po ba? I think this is my opinion, ha? Ay, hindi ko alam kung tama o mali. Pasensya na ho kayo sa aking opinion. Sa akin, parang nabastusan ho ako at parang hindi na ho ginalang itong ating Congress na kung saan magkakaroon ng kaisipan yung ibang tao na pwede naman pala eh. Parang kayo ho ang gumagawa ng dahilan para hindi ho irespeto yung Congress. Meron naman ho tayo eh. Pwede naman ho natin pag-usapan yan kinabukasan. Tama po ba? I don't know kung agree ho kayo sa sinasabi ninyo. Ha? Kasi mali naman ho talaga na gawin sa labas ho ng plenary. Kasi napakasagrado ho ng kumbaga nga sa religion, sagrado ho yung pagiging speaker o yung pagiging leader. 'Di ba? At meron naman ho kayong proper venue. I think, siguro, para ho sa akin, dapat doon talaga sa loob ng Congress. Pinapayagan naman na gamitin ng Congress yung ibang venue kung talagang hindi ho yun yung special session, may mga ibang pinag-uusapan. But, mamimili tayo ng isang bagong leader ng Congress, dapat doon na lang ho sa loob. Nagkakaroon na parang ano ho ba kayo ang naglalagay na para hindi igalang ang Congress?
Yes.
Diba? Yan ho yung sinasabi ko. I think so bad. Kasi ganyan ho dapat.
Yes.
Diba? Wala naman ng problema. Gamitin ninyo sa iba. Gumamit kayo ng ibang venue. Sa ibang bagay. Diba? Halimbawa, budget hearing. Pwede naman ho yan sa labas. Pero kung ikaw ay paano naman ho yung mga nasa loob ng Congress? Di ba ho? Yun ho yung katanungan ko. Kaya, ako ho ay nagtataka sa nangyari. Then, bukas sabay-sabay ho nating abangan. Dahil dalawa na ho ang Congress Speaker. Alam naman ho nating lahat. Ang alam naman ho natin lahat, kapag nagbubukas po ang session ng plenary hall ng Congress, ang speaker po ang unang nagsasalita at siya ho ang nagbubukas ng session. Ito ho ang aabangan natin bukas. May bagong speaker at meron ng iba naniniwala si Speaker Cayetano pa rin. Dahil sabi ho ni Speaker Cayetano, hindi ko kinakampihan si Speaker Cayetano. Hindi ko sinasabing kampi ako sa kanya. Ilagay lang ho natin sa gitna sa lugar. Tama naman sinasabi ni Speaker Cayetano. Labago sa batas kapag ganun ang usapan. Kasi ang nangyari parang hinijack nyo yung mga tao. Parang lumalabas na sapilitan. Wala naman kaming problema kung manalo ka talaga as a speaker kung dun sa loob mo ginawa. Kaya bukas abangan natin mga Reaksyon TV at sabay-sabay natin gawan ng reaksyon. Bukas dito sa Reaksyon TV. Yung mga mangyayari sa Congress. Hindi ho natin alam kung sino ho ang magbubukas ng session sa Congress. Si Cayetano ba o si Velasco? Yun ho ang ating katanungan sa inyo. Sana ho, yun din ang katanungan ninyo. Sino kaya? Maganda-ganda hong ano yan, kaabang-abang. Sabi ni Licar Cabudo, nakaabang na raw siya. Sige, parang sabi niya, tama sabi ni Miss Sabi, ay si Mausisang Untak muna. Parang sa aking opinion, if gentleman si Cayetano, bumaba siya sa pwesto at i-honor ang agreement and allow Alan to take over, and kung hindi siya satisfied, edi mag-declare siya ng vacant speakership. Yes, tama, Mausisang Utak. Tama. For me, ganun din. Kasi kung ayaw talaga nila kay Cayetano, ay kay Velasco, malaya naman pong mag-audita itong mga Congress na maghahanap uli sila ng panibagong speaker. Magkukodita po yan kapag ayaw talaga nila. Tignan ho natin. Ha? Ganun ho talaga dapat. Kapag ayaw mo ang isang namumuno sa'yo, ganun talaga dapat magkodita ka. Parang hijack yung nangyari kanina dahil pati RTBM, basta na lang nila pinapunta doon sa Celebrity Sport Complex. Kaya nagkaroon ng speculation na kesyo supportado daw ng President si Velasco. Tandaan natin, mga Reaction TV. Ang Pangulong Duterte nagsalita na ho. Anumang away ang meron sa Congress, wag ho nating idadawit ang Pangulong Duterte. Wag ho nating aalisin anumang sigalot sa Congress, wag ho nating dadamay ang ating Pangulong Duterte. Ha?
Yeah.
Please. Please po. Kasi wala hong ano yun. Wala hong kinalaman doon. At hindi ho nakikialam ang Pangulong Duterte tungkol dyan. Sana ho nauunawaan ho natin lahat mga Reaction TV. But 1,082 na tayo pero ang nagla-likes pa lang is 81. Asan yung asan yung 1,000? Yung 1,000. Yung 1,000 hinahanap ko eh. Wala yung 1,000 eh. Asan na kaya yung 1,000? Sige, Philippine, meron lang ako Philippine, meron lang ako i-promote na channel.
Yes,
Sana ho mapagbigyan niyo ho ako sa kahilingan ko. Ha? Mapagbigyan niyo ho ako sa kahilingan ko. Pag-graduate na ho natin si Salamin ng Buhay. 91 na lang ho ang kulang niya. Baka naman po, puntahan niyo na ho si Salamin ng Buhay. 91 na lang ho ang kulang niya mga Reaction TV. Gagraduate na ho siya sa 1,000. Ayan ho. 91 na lang ho siya mga Reaction TV. Tignan niyo ho. Ayan ho. 909. Baka naman ho, puntahan niyo na ho Salamin ng Buhay. Salamat kay Rubes Grade, new members. Become a YouTube member. Thank you very much po. Yan, Lucia Morningstar, thank you. And bibigat ng mga daliri, bibigat ng mga daliri, Brad. Oo nga eh, halatang gutom na ba? 1,094 na po tayo mga Reaction TV. Baka naman mapagbibigyan niyo ho ako. Puntahan niyo si Salamin ng Buhay. Please help. Ha? Ano na lang ho siya, 91 na lang ho para makagraduate na ho. Mas nakakatuwa ho kapag may nakakagraduate ho tayong kaibigan natin. Tandaan ho natin mga Reaction TV, malaki hong pasalamat yan kapag nakakagraduate. At napakabait naman po yan niya Salamin ng Buhay. Sana wag niyo hong kalimutan. Salamin ng Buhay, if you free, ano na yung mo dyan? Baba yung link mo at magpo-proceed na kami bago kami matapos. Ha? Salamin ng Buhay, please. Baba na lang yung link mo dyan para mapuntahan ka. Ayan o, napakagaling yung gumawa ng tula niyan. At yung mga gusto hong malaman ang kwento ni Reaction TV, kung bakit ito ginagawa ni Reaction TV, mga ganito, please visit, tawag dito, Salamin ng Buhay. Nandito ho yung kwento ni Reaction TV. Ayan ho, ang kwento ni Reaction TV. Yan, yung kwento ni Reaction TV. Ayan ho. Yan. Nandito ang kwento ni Reaction. Nasaan na ba yung Reaction TV kwento? Yun, totoo. Ayan o ang kwento ni Reaction TV, mga Reaction TV. Ha? 1,400 views. 1,479 views. Teaser pa lang yan. And 286, walang nag-dislike. Ibig sabihin, gustong-gusto nila si Reaction TV. Oh my Kengs.
Alam mo sa Reaction, no? Pasalamatan mo si Plutarch, no? Kasi alam mo, lahat ng video ng Reaction, no? Ni-play ni Plutarch kagabi. Sa dalawang computer niya.
Thank you very much, Plutarch. Thank you for supporting me, ha? Ayan, no? Ayan yung yes.
Ay, si Malcolm. Pusong pinangagon ko na. Maraming salamat po, dear friends. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you po kay Miss Everlita Reyes, no? Salamat po sa pag-antay ng shoutout. Thank you so much. Yes. Salamin ng buhay po.
Alam nyo, pag nagpe-play ako ng YouTube, parang ayaw mag-play. Bakit ganun? Ayaw na ba ako pag-play? Ayan na. Seconds lang naman yan. Ang inaabangan ng lahat, ang kwento ng isang, ang bagal naman ito, Reaction TV. Ayan na. Malapit na. Ayan na ho yun. Naka-part 9 na ho tayo. Isang segment na lang ho yan. Wala na ho kasi. I have finished my, sabi ni Mr. Malcolm, I have finished my dinner now. Really appreciate you for inviting to me show. Mabuhay and more power. Thank you, Mr. Malcolm. Very, very appreciate you. And thank you very much. So, ayan na ho, mga Reaksyon TV, no? Puntahan nyo, salamin ng
sabi ni kay buti na lang tol, pinaalala mo, muntik ko nang nakalimutan. Ay, salamat Everlita Reyes, ha. Thank you, ha.
Tsaka sana naman wag nyo rin nung kalimutan. Kung hindi nyo nakalimutan si Reaksyon TV at si Salamin ng Buhay, wag nyo rin nung kalimutan na mag-likes. 87 likes pa lang po tayo. Baka naman ho. Di ba? Suportahan din ho natin ang Pusong Pinoy ni Mr. Malcolm Conlan. Puntahan nyo rin ho yung kanyang Facebook. Siya ho, ginagawa niya ho lahat ng kaparaanan para maipromoto ang bansang Pilipinas at yung mga kapwa ho natin Pilipino. Siya ho ang magpapatunay kahit hindi ho siya Pilipino, pero kakaiba ho ang kanyang pagmamahal sa Pilipinas at sa ating mga kababayang Pilipino. Tandaan ho natin yan.
Yes.
At sana yung mga nakakapag-subscribe sa Reaksyon TV, please naman ang dali ho pindutin. Libre ho pumindot ng kulay pula. Sabi ni Nightfall, na nosebleed daw si Reaksyon TV kanina. Nightfall, sorry kasi alam honestly, trying hard ako magsalita ng English. Pero marami namang sa atin. I'm not fluent sa salitang English, pero nakakaintindi tayo ng mga English, but hindi lang tayo makapagsalita ng English. Aywan ko lang kung bakit ganun. Pero kung Arabic, Mr. Malcolm, no problem. I can do that. Diba?
Okay.
So, okay, balik ko Tomorrow, abangan ho natin lahat yung Congress at bigyan ho natin ng samot-saring action. Okay? So, Philippine, before tayo magtapos, please, basahin mo na muna yung ating mga comment dyan. Maraming salamat po sa 1,000 na viewers natin. Na-appreciate ko kayo. Plutarch, thank you. Ayan si Miss Colette, nagbababa rin ng link. Mark DXB, I'm late as Mark. Kung late ka, paki-replay mo na lang paki-umpisa mo lang sa kasi maraming tanong kay Mr. Malcolm Conlan. Baka na-miss mo. Please, i-replay mo na lang yung kay Mr. Malcolm. Okay? Yun ho yung ating mga topic natin. Okay?
Yes. Babasahin natin si Charlie Sousa. Good job. Charlie Sousa Rolona, please, good job. Pa-subscribe naman Charlie kay Salamin and Malcolm, Hingi ako ng tulong para sa kanila. Thank you and support. Miss Kulit, salamat.
Mr. Malcolm, meron yatang YouTube channel, I think. Tama ba, Mr. Malcolm?
Yes, YouTube channel po, meron siya. Yes, may YouTube siya po. Nandun po yung Pusong Pinoy sa YouTube na please subscribe and like din po.
Okay. As well bago tayo magtapos, Mr. Malcolm, still here, okay? So, we have 5 minutes before to end. Pasok natin ulit si Mr. Malcolm to promote YouTube channel.
Mr. Malcolm, great, salamat.
It's okay, Mr. Malcolm? You enter again? Okay, you enter again. Okay.
Rob's great. Maraming salamat po. Rob's great. Thank you.
I'm just chilling out now. I've got to be honest. You did this to me last time as well. Probably I'm not eating before the show started, but it's been an amazing experience. You guys, you had 1,000 people watching, which I think is incredible. So more power to your channel, more power to what you're doing. And I'd just like to say, again, please subscribe to my YouTube. Let's all promote each other. I think that applies to all of us. Let's all promote each other.
Yes, this is.
I'm sitting on my sofa right now at the moment. What was that? Oh, is that my channel? Is that my channel views?
Yes.
Okay. That's clever.
You have 5,600 subscribers, Mr. Malcolm.
just to explain very quickly about my YouTube, I'm sorry to take up your time. I've only been doing my YouTube for about a month. And I put something on Facebook and said, can you subscribe to me? And I got like thousands of people subscribing and liking. But unfortunately, I can't monetize my channel. I have an old AdSense account. It's not about monetizing, but I had this vision that if I could monetize my channel, you know, I get a lot of messages from Pinoys asking for tablets for their kids going to school. You know, if I was able to monetize, I think I could use that money to be able to help others. So I'm not doing so much on YouTube as I had before. There was a time where every day I was commenting 3 or 4 times, but I've kind of reduced it a little bit. I'm speaking to Google at the moment. I hope they can sort it out. Even if they don't, I'll still be posting the occasional video, but you've probably seen me kind of go down a little bit. It's just because at the moment I'm having this discussion with Google, which is ongoing.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So please visit Mr. In short, Mr. Malcolm, not profitable, right?
Yeah, exactly right. I don't agree with making money out of politics, but clearly, if I could make some money, I'd use that to help others. You know, that's what I've always done. You know, of course, we've all got to pay our bills. I don't agree with people using social media just to make money out of politics. I think we should support the president and support the Philippines because we love the country. There are some people even with fake channels just to make money, which I'm not a big fan of.
Mr. Malcolm, I have one question. Do you remember Salamin ng Buhay, right? Salamin ng Buhay, she want to try to cover your life. Do you remember that chat Salamin ng Buhay?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah, because she asked me the permission to you. Then I to tell her, no problem. You can go to Mr. Malcolm. Then you message him. Then got it. Yes. Yes, we talk about that. Yeah.
I would be more than happy to. You know, I'm happy to reach out to anybody. And again, to everybody watching, I'm absolutely overwhelmed. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Pusong Pinoy. You know, I love the Philippines. I love you guys. Maraming salamat. Thank you for being there. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for supporting the country. Mabuhay.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Philippine, paalam na tayo. Philippine, are you there?
Yeah, support Malcolm in his advocacy also, ha? Malcolm, Pusong Pinoy. So please support him, and especially Salamin ng Buhay. Tulungan natin. Let us help Salamin ng Buhay, guys. He's a very good channel also. And you know, advocacy of Malcolm and Reaksyon are the same. They are trying to help children in the Philippines. So please like and subscribe. Thank you so much all for watching. God bless you all. God bless Sir Malcolm and your family. And more love and more support you. God bless the Philippines. At magandang gabi sa inyong lahat at magandang umaga sa Pilipinas. Salamat po.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip Bren. Then, thank you very much again, Mr. Malcolm. At ito lang ang masasabi ko sa inyo, mga Reaksyon TV. Alam niyo naman, no, ang goal ng Reaksyon TV. This is Reaksyon TV for real. This is not for fake news. Okay? So, one word I tell you every day when we start the live streaming, nakapa-English ako Reaksyon TV is your family. Okay? Reaksyon TV is your family. Kaya sa Reaksyon TV, ito ang kakampi mo. Mabuhay, solid tayo, at solid Duterte. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Thank you very much. Solid Duterte. See you tomorrow for the next topic. Mabuhay. God bless us all. Good morning and good night. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Ang pamilyang pinahanap, kung saan may boses ang lahat. Mainit na issue pinag-uusapan, tayo'y magkwentuhan. Reaksyon TV, ikaw tunay. Komento mo ay ibigay. Sama-sama tayo'y magkaisa at salin ang bagong umaga. Reaksyon TV.
Sa mundo ng social media, ikaw ay nakisabay. Kaya talagang ang isang tulad mo ay doon nababagay. Ang pagbibigay mo ng tunay na balita at ang magagandang katangian mo na nakita ko sa iyong mga salita. Hindi ka man gustuhin ng iilan, pero mahal ka naman ng karamihan. Ang isang kagaya mo ay talagang dapat purihin dahil ang mga balita at reaksyon mo ay talagang walang dahilan para kay batikusin. Maganda kang ehemplo sa mamamayan, lalo na sa mga batang ligaw ang kaalaman. Nagsisilbi kang gabay sa mga taong naliligaw ang pananaw sa buhay. Reaksyon TV, isa kang tunay na makabayan. Makabayan na talagang tutulong sa abot ng iyong makakaya dahil ang isang kagaya mo ay walang hiling kundi ang makapagbigay saya. Saya na walang sino man ang makakapantay sa mga bigay mong gabay. Sana pagpalain ka pa ng puong may kapal at mawala yung mga tao sa buhay mo na nakasagabal dahil talagang bilib ako sa taglay mong katapangan at sa mga reaksyon mo na walang kinikilingan.